and welcome to Chain Reactions, a weekly live stream from Miden XYZ, the leading global marketing network, and hosted by yours truly, Blake, and my co-host, Polina. Tune in each week as we jam on the latest happenings in the wild and wonderful world of Web3. We're live on Unlonely.app every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, and release the pod every following week on Tuesdays. Now, let's talk Chain Reactions.
Let's do it. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is Chain Reactions, your weekly live stream and podcast hosted by yours truly and Polina, my co-host. How you doing, Polina?
Oh, good.
And we talk every week with the leading founders and marketing leaders in the space. And really excited to have Azeem on today. Talk all about Miden and all the cool stuff they're cooking up, whether it's ZKs and So we'll be talking about edging today. So let's get into it. But I guess to kick things off, Azeem, we'd love to have you kind of introduce yourself, let the folks know. I always love to start with what was your journey, right? I think you have a pretty impressive and prolific background. So how'd you get into all this? How'd you get to this point? And then we can dive in.
Pleasure to be here with you guys. For any of the listeners, if I seem a little low energy, it's not because my co-hosts here aren't amazing, but it's because my whoop told me that I only slept for an hour and 19 minutes last night. And so it's that. I don't know exactly what happened, but I am one of the co-founders of Miden. Miden is a new ZK blockchain that's focusing on being a canvas for builders looking to build a private, scalable, and compliant application on top of blockchains. We've sort of reimagined what it is that blockchains work like. Mentioning edging, basically we're separating in terms of reimagining how it works is using client-side compute. So instead of creating a transaction and then sending it to the network to do the computation, the way that Miden does it is that we are able to do that computation on your local device. So think your computer or your smartphone, and you generate a ZK proof, and then you send that ZK proof to the network. And because of that, things are able to be compliant, where you're able to add in like notes in that, this transaction will not go through unless you have met, MiCA guidelines and are not on an OFAC sanction list. It's more scalable because of just how much smaller the files are that you're sending to the blockchain. And the more people that join the network, the more that you're actually able to have like scalability on it from the side. And then the privacy angles also, you're able to keep the sensitive data local to your phone as opposed to having to send it out to this public ledger. And we recently raised a $25 million seed round. A16Z, 1KX, and HackVC were our co-leads. We had an amazing list of angels as well. We were extremely fortunate, especially because the fundraising environment right now is not actually a very good one. I give all credit though to my co-founder Bobbin, who is just a brilliant savant-like character. He did early ZK work at the EF before even the Starkware folks. He led the ZK team at Facebook for years. I refuse to call it Meta. And then after that disbanded, he went on to become a co-founder of Polygon. And he was at Polygon from end of 2021 to when we did the spin out. And then my other co-founder, Dominic, was at Raiden. He spent time at Consensus, and he's been working with Bobbin on this for quite some time, and just deeply ecosystem and product focused. And they led a lot of the initial fundraise. I came on late for it. Going backwards though, I got into crypto in 2012, 2013. Just was sitting on Twitter. I was applying to medical schools in 2012, and I was working in a biotech company, and I was working on a startup part-time, and I was just on Twitter a lot, and I started reading about sort of the philosophy of money and the idea of decentralized money versus centralized money. And at the time there was only really Bitcoin, and I started writing for the Huffington Post that year. And at the end of 2013, the New York City Bitcoin Center was opening here in the financial district in New York. And I went to an event that they hosted, and I ended up doing an article about it. And it was fascinating. It was back when people were drunk and screaming, buying Bitcoins from each other using QR codes, back when Bitcoin was, I think it was $500 or $600 at the time. So very, very long time ago. And then not long after, in early 2014, it was like February, I tried launching something called Kardashian, and I
Nice.
got like a ton of media on it. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm non-technical,
Right. You're just
but
fucking
like,
around. That's how
yeah,
it
I was just
starts.
fucking, exactly. I was just fucking around, and I was just like, at the time, something called Kanye West had been out. It was
Mm,
using like a South Park reference to Kanye West as like a joke, and
right.
it made him really angry. And so I was like, what better way to sort of piggyback on the media than like Kim Kardashian and Kimcoin?
Mm.
And after I had the Newsweek cover what we were doing, I got a cease and desist from the Kardashian family. And I did not continue with that project because I could not like compete with their lawyers. But it was like sort of my like ascent into Web3. In 2017 when ICOs were going on, I was, in a bunch of Slacks and Telegrams and buying and selling ICOs and involved there. In 2019, I tried raising money for a crypto gaming company. I was
Mm.
unsuccessful. It was a little too early. All the biggest investors said that crypto and gaming don't go together, that I had to pick one or the other, and ended
In
up
hindsight,
in
maybe they were right. Yeah. Who knows?
so far,
Depends.
I do
So
still,
far.
I would say I still do believe like we're years out from it, but I do think that
Yeah.
it's like if you are a gamer for the most part, I think crypto makes the most sense. Just
Yeah.
because like I'm a Halo, Call of Duty, and then aging myself like
Yes.
GoldenEye player,
Yeah.
and
What's your
anyone
favorite
who's
Call of Duty, real quick?
oh man, Modern Warfare, I'd say like
Yeah.
Black,
Classic.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the classic.
I know.
It's just like having played them and buying loot boxes and buying COD
Yes.
points and like like you're buying cryptocurrency and then you're paying for skins, which are just digital assets,
Yep.
and you're just doing it all on a centralized server where you don't actually have ownership of anything. And so like I think crypto does still make sense with gaming. I was saying it in 2019. I still am. I don't. I think it's like many years away. I don't think
It
it's
just takes
happening.
time.
That's
Yeah.
it.
It takes
I
time.
think 10 years from now, it'll just be a thing, but like not next year by any means. In 2021, I had a startup that was like a crowdfunding platform built on Ethereum for artists and creators. Raised some money, built a product, launched a token. I'm terrible investor agreements, had no idea what I was doing, and stepped away from that project towards the end of 2021. Joined Gitcoin DAO, which was a great experience in
Mm.
2022. Was there for about 2 years, got to do a bunch of amazing things, including like a big deal with UNICEF, a big deal with Shell
Mm.
Oil, big deal with the American Cancer Society. Uh, After that, I was the co-founder of an EVML2 incubated by a large exchange named
Yep.
BitGet. There were some reasons that we won't get into today, but ended up stepping away from that project. And yes, I tried TLDRing it, but like it's been too many years. Like I'm old, and so
No, we like
uh,
that. There's nothing
yeah,
wrong. I mean, I always love to, because I always think like following people's paths, you just start to recognize that, I don't know, it's each thing leads to the next thing, and it's just never
yes.
guaranteed where you're going to end up,
Yes, yes, it has been absolutely a non-linear route to getting here. And so, yeah, it's been interesting dating back to like, when I was buying Bitcoin for $100 and then I'd sell it at 500 and I thought I was like a genius, right? Like,
Right.
I'm 5xing and 10xing my money. I was like, I'm brilliant. And I'd go spend it on sneakers, right? Had I just held on to all that, I probably wouldn't be working today.
Yeah.
But like that's a different story.
Hindsight's 2020, man. Yeah.
Always, always.
But that's the lesson, is never sell your Bitcoin. That's it. So if you're listening, yeah,
Honestly, at this point, it really and truly is the lesson. It's just like, just
yeah,
buy Bitcoin and hold it. I'm one of the crazy people who will also say buy Ethereum and hold it. I don't
mhm.
believe that like the rails of the internet are being built on Ethereum and that Ethereum doesn't actually do well later. Maybe I'm just
No.
coping because I hold too much Ethereum.
No, I agree with you. Just a quick digression, like Tom Lee from Fundstrat, I think like he's a big like Wall Street analyst. Like he just announced he's converting his Bitcoin mining company into an Ethereum.
Wait,
Like
really?
I think so, yeah, on MSNBC or something. So it's not he's saying Bitcoin is dead or anything. He's obviously a
Yeah,
big crypto believer, but he's
yeah.
starting to reallocate. And he's a very smart guy. He's proven right over the past 5 years just on
That is
return alone. So
that is
bullish.
fascinating.
Who knows?
Yeah, we shall see. I hope he's right for my bags.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So coming back to the story, like how did it get to Miden? Like when did you meet the
Yeah.
first?
So I met the Miden team back in January of this year, and I'd already sort of been exploring what I wanted to do next. I had sort of made the decision that I would be leaving North, and had been chatting with a bunch of teams, to be entirely honest with you, because I've been fortunate to be in this space for a long time. I know the capital allocators, I know the exchanges, I know the high net worth individuals, the protocols. Like uh, Gitcoin was very good for me in that like my network is as expansive as like essentially possible, and was considering what it looked like to decide what I wanted to do next. And some of the VCs and some of the angels for Miden reached out entirely separately and were just like, Azeem, I know you're looking to figure out what you want to do next. There's this amazing team that, we're investing in, and I would love to have you chat with them. And so, at the time, there were a team of 17 people, and no one on the team was non-technical. And met with them. And honestly, the first time I met with them, I looked over the investment memo and the white paper, and I was like, guys, I'm not smart enough to be a co-founder with you guys on this company. I was just like, I was like, as much as like I love what you guys are saying, I was just like, this is too smart for me, And we basically did working sessions from like mid-January until I actually joined, which was like at the end of April, in a way where I was also like, I don't want any money. I'm like very interested. I want to give you guys my ideas. I want you to see like sort of what's it like to work together? What's it like to disagree? What's it like to like have a working relationship in a way that's not transactional, right? Like, I could say like, hey, let's do a consulting fee or something like that. But like, I don't want to do that. I'd much rather see what it's like to work more closely with you guys and building out this sort of multifaceted approach, right? Because it was thinking through narrative, ecosystem, branding, community, PR, social media. Like there's so many things to do. And then, very importantly, like the token launch. One of the things that I've been fortunate with has been, because I've particularly navigated like the APAC side of crypto, is knowing a lot of the exchanges, knowing the right people at the exchanges, sort of understanding how that works, knowing the market makers, having chatted with the liquid funds. Like there's so much dark arts that go into launching a token. So there was a lot of discussion around that as well. And it was more so, what does it look like to come in as a co-founder who would be able to help lead all of these non-technical initiatives, like where, I'm not going to come in and have any opinions on, the way that we go about doing client side compute, but I will have definitely a lot of opinions on how I think that we might most effectively be able to build out an ecosystem strategy. And even here, I was a couple minutes late for us to do this because I was chatting with one of the, I think they count as a top 15 or top 10 AUM asset manager in the world, and having a discussion around what does it look like to collaboratively build something on Miden together based on sort of the needs of said financial institution if they were given a canvas. Because to date, like they're given public ledgers as blockchains, and that doesn't work for a lot of them. It's just like they can't build on a public ledger. But privacy is a dirty word because it's not compliant. And so I've been having these conversations with all these financial institutions, which I started building relationships dating back to the end of 2022 when I did that big UNICEF deal at Gitcoin. And even now, I consult with the UNICEF crypto fund. Yes, UNICEF has a crypto fund. They've had one since 2017. But, over time, I've just been building relationships with people in nonprofits, for-profits, NGOs, and because I've done a lot of things that have just like created that network. And now it's been like having these conversations. So for things like that, I was like, look, Bob and Dominic, like I will definitely have strong opinions on how I would want to go about building out that thesis in terms of how we'd approach it. And so, yeah, that's honestly how it came together. Like very honestly, it was extremely organic. When I announced leaving Morph, I had not decided yet that I would be joining Miden. And if anything, one of my worries was actually, and I chatted with them about this, was like, I don't want to be in a position where I feel like I took the first thing I had a conversation with. Like, am I taking the easy way out by doing this? And so I do want to chat with other teams. And I had a lot of conversations with teams where extremely high comp for base pay, extremely high token, like interesting projects. And I just sort of kept finding that there was something about this team, particularly to me. I think it's just like, it's a very big idea. Like, I was saying Bobbin was at Facebook before. Aptos and Sui both came out of Facebook. And so, already large companies, but if what we're doing is right, I honestly think that, we have the potential to be a next cycle Solana. So it's like a huge, huge opportunity. And like the team is just so humble and hardworking, which like is hard to find in crypto. I've sort of attributed it a little bit to Bobbin is, hopefully they don't get mad at me for saying this, but Bobbin's in his like early to mid 40s. Dominic is also in his late 30s. I'm 37, and the rest of the team leans a little bit older, as opposed to this like very super young subset of people in Web3. And so maybe it's like a mindset thing that comes with age, but just they're super humble, super hardworking. Each conversation I had that was honestly excellent with other teams only sort of further reinforced that Miden felt like it would be the right opportunity.
I love that. And this is really interesting because I guess what I'm thinking about is you're talking about being the non-technical co-founder and helping them think through everything from talking to institutions, nonprofits, financial, building out eco. We'd love to better understand. So I think we kind of touched on some of the technical stuff, but frankly, this is more of a marketing pod, right? And so we'll still touch on it. But I'm also kind of curious about like how are you thinking about, as far as you can reveal, like ecosystem, the focus, basically like private. I'm on the same page, right? It's kind of weird because something I've talked about quite a bit over the past couple of years is like when people come up with new payment wallet type apps, cool. But frankly speaking, there's a reason I sold my bank account, because I don't like the idea that I'll 100%. Send someone some USDC and they're like, well, let me go look at his wallet. That's never going to scale. Yeah, I'm just curious, like, how are you thinking about ecosystem growth? Who you guys want to target? What is the focus? What is the positioning? Obviously, the technical side is one side, but yeah.
For sure. So the way we see it is like there's going to be a lot of opportunity in terms of what this kind of a blockchain can offer. And so longer term, like medical records can be on here because you can store very sensitive data in a way that can reveal only what needs to be revealed, and at the same time still be able to keep everything in a very like secure manner. Supply chain logistics, we've already been chatting with some of the Fortune 50 companies about what it looked like to be able to do that. But I think that like the most easy to understand use case in crypto still ends up being financial use cases, right? And so we've been looking at, in these earlier stages, is chatting with market makers, with trading desks, with liquid funds, with folks doing treasury management, folks doing payments, and saying like, what would it look like to you to do sort of private asset management, private OTC, dark pools, which is just like a made up word to be able to say that you want your trading to be private as opposed to like public. What does private treasury management look like for you? What about private payments? Being able to build like a compliant Tornado Cash in a way where you're able to do a mixer. What does privacy as a service look like? One of the things we've sort of been throwing around internally and been having some chats with folks, though we haven't locked it in, is, for a lot of these chains where everything is still public, what does it look like to say like you bridge into Miden and do all of these things, and then you can like bridge back out in a way that allows you to have like a shield of privacy. And like that means like all of the chains, right, that are public. So in the short to medium term has sort of been, what are those kinds of things? And we have some of them being built. Like some of the ones I mentioned, we're chatting with builders that are pioneers building a compliant Tornado Cash or doing dark pools or looking at private OTC, private payments. We have some like great builders that we're already in talks with. And then the more sort of longer term, and it's why right before this I was on a call with one of the larger asset managers, was I've had many conversations over the years where it'll be like a team of, 50 people at said, $2 trillion asset manager. And the 50-person team is their crypto team, and only 5 of them are developers. And that means that basically nothing they want to build is going to get built. And like, let's be real. Like if you're in crypto, that the way to get the best developers is to live on crypto Twitter, and people are like pickles and monkeys and, bears. And like, if you're someone
we're a bunch of weirdos and cartoon characters on the
exactly, right? But like the reality of that is like, we understand that, we just sort of accept it, right? Like, you deal with anons, pseudo anons, like people who like, Blake, I had no idea what you looked like, Paulina either, right? Like we got on the call and I was like, oh, nice, right? Is that these large companies, it's going to be hard for them to figure out how to onboard talent, and their approach of just like wait for something to be successful enough to do M&A while like it's working, it's actually so competitive that it's actually like not necessarily the best thing. And what I've chatted with a lot of them about is, they'll go to hackathons or they'll chat with teams who are like, we built this like shiny new toy. And the problem is that while many of us might be experts in Web3, almost none of us are experts in TradFi. And so our understanding of the things that folks on the TradFi side actually need is usually, from what I've found, like pretty close to zero. And, it's just like,
Okay.
so we're saying like institutional capital is coming and this and
Right.
that. And then you sit down with them and you're like, hey, like, what are the nuances of the difficulties that actually make this hard? Like when I did the deal with UNICEF, it was, yes, we'll do this deal with UNICEF. It took me 9 months to close that deal.
Yeah.
And the amount of red tape that was involved for things that I would have never thought of. Same thing with Shell. We had conversations with Shell at Gitcoin when we were closing $500,000 to distribute to Web3 climate grantees, where they had 13 attorneys on the call. So these are like 13 separate attorneys, each specialized in like some facet of things that I don't understand, all being paid 4 figures an hour. And they must have spent
probably their attorney fees over that time probably was more than the $500,000.
100%, 100%, because it took us close to a year to get the deal done. And so like, but with each of those calls, like dating back to years ago, I started to learn like our conception of what we think folks on the other side want are usually terrible in what we think.
No.
And so it's more so like, I've been reaching out and just like, what are the things that you actually need if we gave you a blockchain that could do X, Y, and Z? And if you say like that thing would be cool, but you don't have the resources to build it, what would it look like for us to pool our resources where we can give you the tech expertise and you give us the TradFi expertise and we build out products for the ability to hit PMF when we launch, right? Like you be a launch partner in this. And it also eliminates this idea of, Morph, when I was working on it, we're a consumer focused blockchain. And one thing I found focusing on consumer is that for the most part, UI UX is just not there. There's a variety of reasons that crypto has a bad name. And so doing B2C is extremely hard unless you're just trying to build more unregulated gambling opportunities that allow people to get excited about 1,000x or 100x. But if you work with these kinds of companies who have really large distribution, you can do B2B2C where, and what does that look like? If I'm able to work with a large asset manager who has distribution, who has assets under management, who has everything that we need, who has the brand to be able to do it, but we're able to sort of power what it is. And we don't actually know what those things are. Like, through conversations, like maybe we hear multiple times that private lending markets would really matter to them. But like, I don't know that private lending markets matter. They're the ones who come to us. And so our ecosystem strategy a lot is honestly like being able to have the relationships and then going in completely admitting our ignorance in what we don't know.
I really like this.
Is this something that you started to do once you kind of had these conversations about joining the team in January? Or like, I'm curious because you said when you came in, you saw all these documents and you were like, guys, it's too much. And now you have this, like very sounding positioning as the edge. And so I wonder, how did you come to this? Like, what was your sort of, game plan as you started to actually bring this idea and very complicated product?
Yeah, honestly, it was being able to understand the degree to which I could, where I looked at it from a bigger picture and I said, wait, if you can offer privacy and compliance at the same time and still offer scale where it like can work fast, who are the potential end users here? And then having done the consumer side of things, I knew how difficult that was with Morph. And also having had the relationships, I think one of the things that also in Web3 we take for granted because we just like sort of build in public and it's super easy to get to meet people. And it's like, Vitalik is always just walking around at every conference and he's like the founder of Ethereum, has no security, but like you can't do that with like, the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and things like that. And I've just been fortunate where, for years now have been building relationships with a lot of people that I had done good work and then they would see like, oh, he consults with UNICEF, or I've done work with Mercy Corps on Gaza relief, or I write for Forbes, or I've been writing for CoinDesk. And so all of these people who've known me for years have sort of seen, hey, this is one of the crypto people who's like not a scammer. I've been Faces of Crypto Philanthropy by the Giving Block 2 years in a row. I was on the 100 Faces of Crypto for Stand with Crypto on like work that I've done for policymaker regulation and policymaker like education stuff, right? And so a lot of it was as I sat and I chatted with the team, and it was why these working sessions that I was talking about, like for months on a weekly basis, we were doing like 1 to 2 hours. And outside of that, I was sitting and giving it thought. I was doing research. I was thinking through it. And I was like, how would I go about approaching this to be able to create success? And so when I did finally join, it was like, oh, I have a bunch of people that I already want to message. And it's not like a cold pitch. It's more so like, hey, Amy, it would be worth catching up sometime. Like I'm working on something new, and I think it'd be really cool to run what I'm doing by you to see what your thoughts are. And so that's a lot of what has been like, it's not like as much of a cold start problem as most people would have. I haven't had to really do any cold reach outs. And even, where I'm like, oh, I want to get in touch with, for instance, like there's one company called Canton Network. They announced a $135 million raise last week, like Goldman and Citadel and others were like some of the investors. And it's like, I don't have to cold reach out to them. I've like been chatting with folks who are going to introduce me. Like I'm not chatting with Canton yet. But they're on my like wish list, but I can get a warm introduction through people I'm already talking to. And so I think that, we'll sort of see. There's no like MOUs or LOIs in place just yet. But, we announced like a successful seed, but like to be able to go to Series A, it's been, what are some of the things that we're going to need? And I believe that like being able to get some sort of like, memorandum of understanding or letter of intent from them will definitely be it. And I do think we're on our way towards being able to help get that too.
Yeah, and these B2B things, right? I mean, these enterprise deals take, as you said, if not months, years sometimes to take. But what I really love about your approach, I think it's kind of going back to what we said at the beginning of this call, which I think it's like everything builds on itself, and your journey, while not a straight line, when you look back at it, you're like, oh, actually, this all comes in handy now.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think especially in the world of blockchains, like, I don't think this is too hot a take. I don't think it's a hot take at all, honestly. But I think it's like, as you've noted, there are definitely some shortcomings in the industry of, very technical folks who don't think about how are you going to get people to actually use this. And as you said, we're very much in a bubble. So the fact that you're able to actually go to these institutions, listen to them, I'm sure, as you said, it's like night and day, right? Because everyone's trying to target institutions, but if you have the relationships, it makes it a lot easier. So yeah, kudos to you on that one.
Thank you. What were you saying, Paulina? What were you saying, Paulina?
I wanted to say, like, the moral of the story here is be early and build in public to build your credibility through time is something that pays off in the future.
It's something I've always been a really big fan of. Even now, like, I posted something where I've been really intentional about how we're going to do merch. I think one of the things that I've seen in crypto for years now is everyone just prints like 500 t-shirts. They're very low quality. There's nothing special about them. They get shipped to the conference. Everyone gives them away. To be polite, you sort of like take things at the booth and then you either throw them away before you get home, or like they sort of just become like cleaning rags at the house. Like, and that's one of the
giving
things,
to
like,
your family members, and you get your mom walking around New York with
wearing a Polygon t-shirt. Right. And I was just like, I joined and I was like, guys, we will not be doing that. There's no world in which we're going to do that. But at the same time, how do you build a brand in public? I think, that's something we didn't talk about. I spent years in the entertainment industry. And so I got a chance to see, artists go from nobody to becoming multi-platinum recording artists. And I got to see the process throughout and understand it from like a deep level. And so, something little that we've done is, we call the builder program of people that we accept to like give grants to pioneers. It's our pioneer program. And like imagery for the pioneer program is like, we've been using like versions of explorers. So there's like sailors, there's astronauts. We've been finding the astronauts been the one that like has really been working. And we've even found, like, on a messaging perspective, like astronauts, traverse the unknown. They go to the edge of the earth to like play on the edge blockchain, right? And the edge of the universe kind of thing. And so the idea of like, what do we do that could be cool was, I was like, let's get, a hydro flask water bottle done, not like just some like random garbage. And we ended up putting the astronaut on it. And like, I like ordered the sample yesterday, or a designer made it, ordered the sample. And I was so excited that I was just like, let me actually like post this on Twitter of like, and explaining it is like, the problem is people in Web3, they don't realize like brands are something that like you can't touch, but you can feel them.
Yes.
And, you know, like they're intangible, but you really can feel them. If you think about the brands that actually matter to you, and that brand could mean your favorite singer, it could mean your favorite actor, it could mean like there's so many things. Like it doesn't just have to mean like a physical good. And I did a post about it where I was like, you know, like here's a photo of a water bottle, but there's so much more than just a water bottle. And even how we're going about it, like this is not a cheap water bottle. I'm not going to make 500 of these. These are going to be specifically just for the team, and then maybe like specific angels or VCs or people who've been very helpful. And I want it to be something you get it and you're like, wait, this is super cool. I don't want to throw this away. I want to use this all the time. And then it actually becomes something that can be branding. And we use the idea of scarcity and we use the idea of exclusivity, but it does mean more upfront cost. It means thinking through what we want it to be. It means time in terms of ordering samples. Like, you know, we've brought up, I'm a non-technical co-founder. I haven't found it yet. I'm trying to figure out where I can go to get a very nice crew neck done. And I want embossed stitching in script that says non-technical co-founder. I want to go to conferences and just have non-technical co-founder across my chest, right? But it's like, and I think that would just like be like fun, sort of cutesy, make people laugh. It would be memorable and like make it Miden merch. And so like when it comes to like how you go about building this, I think like people don't get it. I did a talk at, I know ETCC is happening now, but it was ETCC last year. I gave a talk about how Taylor Swift understands community more than anyone I've ever seen, because I went to the Eras tour in June with my wife last year in Liverpool, and I wasn't a Taylor Swift fan before that, and she's a massive fan. We literally flew to a different country to go see Taylor Swift perform. And like we both live here in New York, and we flew to the UK to like specifically go see her perform, because those were the only tickets we could get that were like also affordable. Like it was actually cheaper for my wife and I to fly all the way to the UK.
I was about to say,
hotels, flights, food, everything. It was literally cheaper for us to turn it into a trip in the UK than it was to like go to see a show in New York or Los Angeles.
Because the resale market in the US is completely, it's a mess.
It's insane. But like to see the way that she has built community, and it has nothing to do with financialization. It's nothing to do with, I love Bored Ape because Bored Ape is worth a lot of money. It's like there's emotional ties to it. There's like, you know, everyone was wearing these bracelets, and the bracelets like are song names or album names. And like you like go and there's like, you know, 8-year-old girls and 40-year-old women all chatting with each other about this. And so there's like, I gave an entire talk on like, these are the kinds of lessons that we need to take and imbue within what we're doing in Web3 so that we can actually build brand loyalty. But like, what does that look like? And it's like building in public doesn't just mean like your new testnet went out. Building in public means like iterating your brand over time. And so it's things like that. Like, you know, we're talking about marketing on the marketing front where I'm like, how do we go about doing storytelling for building out Miden as we go about building the brand in a way that like brings people along for the journey?
The intentionality here is very refreshing.
So
Thank you.
what's Miden's version of Swifties?
We will see. No, not yet, to be honest. I think like, so like we have, I think our astronaut is going to end up being sort of like the mascot. And, you know, it's like the idea of like picking a cute animal now is so overdone, right? It's just like Pudgy Penguins did it well, and then everyone wanted to find a way to copy them. You know, all the props in the world to Luca and the Pudgy team and Abstract and everything they're doing. But like, you know, I don't want to put us in a position where the best we can be is like number 2, right? Because like Pudgy did it already. I don't want to copy them. But like from like a thought perspective of like the astronaut is the explorer. It's a universally agreed upon thing that we all like sort of like fawn over, of like the idea of them.
We do love space and crypto, I'll say.
We love space and crypto. Like the like sort of the branding around like the edge still works here. So I think like we're going to go with it. We've been playing with names. I think we're going to call him Pi, like, cause it's like everything is about math. And so like, you know, like, you know, so like we're playing with that. And so we will see, like, you know, I think like there's going to be some interesting stuff we can do with like the adventures of Pi. Right now it's just like, just, you know, Pi doing like just standing there, but it's like, you know, you can build merch out of like other ways of doing things. Like I want, if we're in Dubai, I want like by wearing like an outfit that's like native to Dubai. If I was in France now, maybe he'd have on like a little beret, and we could do like conference specific merch, conference specific
you want to
stickers.
create a real, as you're, the best brands builders or storytellers, and storytelling is, I mean, what is that but lore? And I agree, like being
And
able
that's
to
it.
tie that into the IRL stuff, like conference is so central.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And
that's
so
great.
it's like figuring it out, but I think maybe it's because of my time in the music industry. I do look a lot towards, you know, what they've done and how they've done it. And like I've been fortunate. Like I've met everybody. I've met Drake. I've met Beyonce. I've met Jay-Z. Jay-Z. Like I worked with Kanye's team for a while. So like literally like some of the biggest artists on the planet. And in that time was also like some of the smaller artists who weren't well known, and then watching their careers progress and knowing their management teams, knowing their agents, and sort of seeing just how deliberate they were in these same ways that we're hoping and looking to do. It's not just like make something super polished, put it out, and then just expect people to like it.
Yeah. When might an album? I don't know. I gotta.
man, we will see. We will see. We will see. Yeah, we will see. There's a couple things that like I'm like trying to see how we can go about doing, and it's going to be fun. Like each step of the way, like I'm looking to see, it's even why like I used to interview hip hop artists for the Huffington Post from 2013 to 2017. And now, in the last few months, using the Forbes platform, I interviewed Scottie Pippen about a month and a half, 2 months back, former NBA player. The other day at Permissionless,
He's a big Bitcoin bull, right? Is that
big Bitcoin bull?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I interviewed Dennis Rodman last week, who was there at Permissionless for the Pinata event. And so I've been like sort of putting word out, like, hey, if you're an athlete or an artist who is into crypto, like I want to do an interview for you with Forbes. I want to have a conversation with you about like why you like it, what you think of it. Because it's like each step, I'm like, how do you bring in and leverage social and cultural capital to be able to create and bridge to like the technology work that we're doing? That's like oftentimes so abstract. But like that's why I'm like, let's just make cool shit that makes sense. And like, how do we leverage that social and cultural capital in a way that works out to be a competitive advantage, because our industry is not necessarily looking towards that. So a lot of it just like is me like flailing and not knowing what I'm doing, but it's like that's just the process. Like you have to do that.
How is that? Because all these celebrities and superstars and everything, they're connected more to like the retail market, right? While you, it sounds like, focus a lot on institutional right now. Is that something that will come into play later, or you're just like seeding?
No clue. Seeding a lot of it is just like, hey guys, like, I raised $25 million from some of the best investors in the world at like this crazy valuation. We're figuring out what we want to do with this. I'd love to talk to you about like what that could look like. We chatted with one of the biggest sports agencies in the world, and they were basically like, maybe we discuss what it would look like to build out like an eBay for merch. They were like, they have like over 100 athletes and signed, and they were like, we constantly do these deals where a trading card company will reach out to us and they'll say we need 1,000 pieces signed by XYZ player, and what they end up doing is they're like, okay, cool, it's going to cost you this much money, and then they sign all the pieces and then they send it, and then like they're like, what does it look like if we like own that? What does it look like if we can own some of the authenticity? But they're like completely open-ended things, because like I have no clue. Like it's only through like, I think it's one of the biggest things is just like being open to just being like, I have no clue, right? But like you sort of find like, you say I have no clue often enough, you go in, it creates a humility, it puts you in a position where like people who do know, because it's the same thing, like these artists and athletes, you're right, like they're more consumer focused, like how and why does this make sense for them? I have no clue. Like, but through conversations, maybe it does end up making sense. Maybe it makes sense later down the line. Maybe, but like, we'll see.
And also, by the way, institutions like, I mean, maybe they don't care about like pie as much, right? And maybe they do, right? But at the end of the day, like brand storytelling, it all has to create like a cohesive universe. And so I think it does still matter to an extent, certainly. And it doesn't sound like you're saying, let's go crazy with the degen stuff. I haven't heard anything about degen stuff, frankly, which is good and refreshing.
No, I'm not interested. Like, it's not to say I don't encourage someone to build that if they want to, but like having been in this space for 12 years, like
There's more than enough
finding
of
a
it.
yeah, it's just like every few years we like find a new form of unregulated gambling and we like add a new word to it, and then we're just like, look, like we did this like new amazing thing, and it's like, no, you're just doing unregulated gambling, and like that's
What are they
cool.
calling it right now? It's like information
Asymmetry.
capital.
Asymmetry.
Internet capital markets. Internet capital
Capital
Ah,
markets.
capital.
I'm like,
Yeah,
isn't that just
yeah.
crypto? Like we're just
Yeah, it's
rebranding
just
it
like
again? Yeah.
there's just information asymmetry when it comes to
Yeah.
unregulated markets, and there's no issues with
Mm-hmm.
that. Whereas like in regulated markets, information asymmetry is considered insider trading.
Yeah.
When you're not regulated, it's not insider trading. Like that's all it is, right?
Let's see what happens once we get some regulation. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
regulations. I think that we absolutely need them. And so you're
Yes.
right. It's like if people come and do build degen things on top of us, like yeah, it's a
Yeah.
permissionless thing, like build whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
those aren't necessarily the things that we're looking for,
Yeah.
because even that, right? Like right now, the most thought of approach for degen stuff would be meme coins. Like I have no intention of trying to compete with Solana on meme coins, like none. Like the same way we were saying I don't want to compete with, Pudgy on like cute animals. Like Solana won meme coins. Like why would you go to any other network to do meme coins? And so like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's only if you want to piggyback on something, but then you will not be the first
You can't be the
mover.
leader.
Like what you
Yeah,
want. Yeah, exactly. You want to
yeah,
create your
exactly.
own category, but you can't do that without keeping an open mind and keeping your
Can we
perspective.
talk a little bit about Pioneer program and the devs and the builders that you're seeing? We'd just love to kind of hear a bit more about like what excites you, or I mean, not your favorites, I guess, but you're welcome to kind of shout out whoever's building that you think is doing interesting stuff, perhaps.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I like at the moment, I'm actually going to be chatting with all of them like later this week and next
Mm,
week. So like, we have one that's Arcane Finance, and they're building like a compliant tornado cache, which I think is a
right.
fascinating thing to be doing.
Right.
There's a huge need for it, but to make sure that like, there aren't illegal actors that are using it,
Yep.
because the idea of why Tornado Cash was around is it makes total sense. It's like, hey, you should be able to have some sort of privacy available. The problem is that, privacy is expensive. And so
Yep.
because of that, the people that end up using it aren't the people who have $300. They're the people who like are trying to do other things. And
Yep.
unfortunately, like, unsavory actors ended up using Tornado Cash. And like, even though I do, by the way, will say like, I don't think it makes any sense. Code is not supposed to
Yep.
be something like, it's a First Amendment thing in terms of speech. And like Roman
Yep.
should not be facing the issues that he is, but like he is facing issues with the law for building open source tech that was used by someone. But what does it look like to build a compliant version of Tornado Cash?
Yep.
Chatting with the team, Q3X, which is looking at like being able to do like, and it's not sexy, but it's like private payments. There's a team
Well, that really
called
matters, as we talked about, right? If people are going to use
yeah,
crypto and in the
yeah,
mainstream, we
yeah.
need that.
It's exactly that. And so, there's another team called what is it, Linum, and they're doing dark pools. And it's like that's been one of the
Mm,
things we found, like where like people really do just want to be able to trade in a private manner without like doing anything illegal. And so they're like some of the builders we've been chatting, and we've been pretty intentional. Where like, you know, we're looking for builders looking to do things on like the private asset management side.
yeah.
Like,
And that's
anyone
interesting
can
too,
apply.
because I come from the venture studio space. You're kind of almost taking like a venture studio
Oh, we
approach
are. Oh, we
in a
are.
sense.
100%. This is,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because
So I've written a
you're
bunch of
talking to the
books.
potential customers, you're getting their insights, saying this is our thesis, this is what we want to build, and you're putting the call out. It sounds like
Hmm.
pulling in the devs to build the right things, rather than I think most blockchains and foundations will just be like, builders come
Everyone gets
here. And you're like,
50K.
which
Yeah.
builders? It's
Everyone
crazy.
gets 50K. Hopefully someone becomes Pump Fund. This goes back to like, when I was at Gitcoin, I oversaw the grants program there. And during
Right.
my time there, I helped distribute what must have been like $15 million to thousands of
Mhm.
projects across everything. And it was, Web3 gaming, Web3 social, decentralized
Right.
science, open source software, Ethereum infrastructure. Like we did rounds for everything, policymaker
Yeah.
education. And so I would chat with builders who had raised $200, and then I would chat with the founders of Uniswap and 1inch and Yearn and
Right.
MakerDAO and Bankless and Wallet Connect. And I got a chance to understand like what is it that builders really need. And then at Morph, I did a bunch of articles on CoinDesk for this, but like building out a thesis for how I see ecosystem building should work. And if you think about it and you like zoom out a little bit, like infra builders are in this different space where like you can go raise a bunch of money, not just very easily, but like you're much more likely to raise like, did a $25 million seed. Like no one does $25 million seeds in the regular world. You're in a different position doing that. But like if you're a regular builder looking to build an application, you have to take the opportunity cost of figuring out what chain to build on top of. You have to hope to figure out what you need to do to be able to get in touch with the team who will be able to give you some sort of grant. Let's say you get a grant and you build some sort of like minimum viable product. The idea isn't that like, bless you. The idea isn't that you're done like raising money now that you raised a grant. Like you need to figure out how to raise venture capital. Very difficult thing to do. Again, like I've been in the space for years with capital allocators. Like I've been very fortunate, right? Like across, Miden, Morph, Gitcoin, and other things that I've done, like in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been involved in raising like $70 million. And so like, I'm like uniquely fortunate in that. And so when I meet with builders who've never raised a dollar, but they need to raise venture capital now, and it's like, but then they're not done there. They need to figure out KOLs and media. That's not an easy thing to navigate. And then if they do that correctly, they need to figure out what market makers they should be chatting with. And like, sure, like everyone knows who Wintermute is, but how do you get in touch with Wintermute? If you don't know, you're not going to be able to navigate it. And then finally, after that is like the listings process. Like the exchanges are brutal in terms of like figuring out how you're supposed to go about doing that. I think you're on mute.
100K followers on Twitter to get listed on exchanges and all other
right. And so it's like
place.
Exactly. And so it's like the way I see it is exactly what you're saying, Blake, is that like to me the venture studio model has definitely been it, which is like how can I come in and say what can I do to support builders sort of through that journey? Because I've been fortunate that like I know the market makers, I know the exchanges, I know the venture funds, I know the KOLs, I know the media. Like I know how to navigate all that. But like going back to the entertainment industry, sort of like the way that I see it is that infrastructure providers are supposed to sort of be like the record label. And my job is to go out there and find the Taylor Swifts and the Drakes of the world and then give them the resources they need to then go be the superstars. Like I myself have no desire to be the celebrity of the thing. I think infra providers have gotten stuck in this loop though, where for years they had to find a way to raise a bunch of money and then become the celebrity in the room and throw the biggest parties and like try to be the coolest person and have the most Twitter followers. And they focused on themselves too much and they were like, we'll just give grants to everybody. But the reality of it is like you need to build successful applications built on top of your blockchain that are using block space and turn this into a real ecosystem. And to do that, you have to look at it from the perspective of what am I going to do to help like find that talent? Who is that like young Taylor Swift? Who is that young Drake? And like, what do they need? And you have to personalize it. And like, what do they specifically need? So some of the builders I'm chatting with, I'm like, you're going to be better suited to raise like this. You're going to need to talk to these investors. Like there's so many like nuances that go into this. Like if you want to raise $2 million, like there are certain funds that you shouldn't be talking to because they want to do a $10 million minimum check. So you're wasting their time even trying to get in front of them. But those are the things that you don't know. And so it is absolutely, you called it, is like very much like we're being highly selective and then doing a venture studio model. And even separately, like you're saying, like I want to put them in touch with sales, right? Like if I can put you in touch with a top asset manager, why not? And I'm going to then know the M&A departments as well. Like why not look into it? Yeah. So
because at the end of the day, it's about what's your unfair advantage, right? You
that's it.
Through your career, you've built up this expertise that you can leverage now, right? To make sure the foundation and the blockchain actually succeeds. Because at the end, as you just said, it doesn't like people lost sight of the plot, right? I think the Gen Z would say today they try to be the main character when they shouldn't be. Right?
Absolutely, main character syndrome everywhere, and I don't want to be. Like I'll do it as much as I need to. But like, it's not my personal end goal. I'm like, I will do this as much as needed, but like, I'm much more excited to see like a builder who like then goes crazy and makes amazing things happen on top of Miden. And I can just like quietly sit knowing, oh, I helped him raise some money. We did this, and this for him. And now he's he's off or she's off doing amazing things.
We love it. We love it. And I mean, this was honestly such a good conversation. I hate to do this, Azeem, but we are running low on time. So what I'd love to do very quickly is to end this part with just kind of, we have mainnet coming up. I believe Q4 is when you're planning on launching. What needs to happen?
Q1.
Maybe Q1. You know, I get it. Things So maybe end of this year, maybe beginning of next year. I think the main question there is like, what can people expect? What they should be looking out for? And then if we have time, I'd love to really very quickly squeeze in rapid fire questions. Those are very quick. Those will be like a few minutes, but.
So we're looking to do a final testnet that should be coming out sometime in August as of now. Other than that, it's just going to be like continuing to like pay attention to what we're doing. We're going to be adding more infrastructure, chatting with more builders, probably raising our Series A, helping some of our pioneers end up raising some money, and then, you know, doing everything you have to for like continuing to stay in the media and like get the launch out there in a way that we can be successful. But like nothing too exciting, a lot of the boring stuff.
All right. Perfect. Okay, well, let's go to rapid fire and then we'll round this out.
Sure.
And it's pretty straightforward. 4 questions we've asked pretty much everyone that's ever been on the pod. So kicking things off, most underrated marketing tactic in Web3, crypto, blockchain, just the industry.
To me, founder-led like sort of sales. Like I reach out to builders personally. I go into all my meetings personally. I think Reid Hoffman said doing things that don't scale in order to scale is extremely important. And so in general, like that's a thesis that I believe.
Same page. Yes. Love that. Most overrated marketing tactic in Web3, other side.
InfoFi.
Yeah.
All the InfoFis. I think like, you know, having like digital mercenaries is something, and like, you know, tying incentives to being a mercenary. I think it's becoming an anti-signal to see positive sentiment on the timeline, because now you have to wonder if they actually like it or if it's being done so that they can find a way to like earn money from doing it. I don't think there's anything wrong with like the idea of KOLs and doing marketing in that way, but I think the incentive structure is one that, at least at the moment, maybe it changes, but I think the incentive structure is set up in the wrong way.
When everyone is a KOL, is anyone a KOL? I don't know.
That's exactly it, right? And doesn't that then dilute the idea of KOLs as a whole, right?
Yeah, it's strange. Which crypto brands or projects are crushing it?
Coinbase, absolutely crushing it. Arbitrum.
Their videos are on fire. Yeah. With Robinhood.
Arbitrum very quietly has been closing massive deals with many of the biggest financial institutions. Robinhood, funny enough, like, you know, Robinhood, I think it was like towards the beginning of the year, like their earnings report showed that 50% of their revenue was actually from crypto. And so, you know, Stripe is killing it. I did a Forbes article about them recently. The Bridge and Privy acquisitions were amazing.
Their stablecoin happy hour is happening right now, but you know, this is more.
Is it really?
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah, great brands all around. And then the last thing, this is actually my favorite one. We've done 3 basically seasons of this in different forms since almost like 23, and we've asked everyone this question, which is looking back at the past year or so, what do you think is your biggest learning as a founder?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
That chasing money is the wrong thing to do. Like that, like chasing autonomy and chasing impact is the right thing to do. And if you do those things right, money will be an interesting secondary after effect that will come. But the more you chase money, the more it will run away from you.
Yeah. I like that one. I don't think we've heard that one before. So kudos to you. I think at some point we need to collect all these and put this all into an article or something. We've had a lot of great founders give some really good insights. So
I would love to see it, whether it's like a Twitter thread or an article or something. I'd love to see that, just like a bunch of quotes.
Yeah, all the different learnings.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, so we got to get running, Azeem, but this has been a really I only say this every now and then, but this is definitely one of my favorite episodes. I think hearing the intentional nature of how you guys are building Miden, how you guys are reaching out to builders, how you guys are listening to the people and trying to actually bridge that gap, and recognizing that, you know, B2C is not the only solution. Like there's many other ways to you know, create mainstream adoption. Very refreshing to hear, and honestly very bullish on Miden after hearing all this. So
Thank you
to
very
you.
much. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank you for
Well,
joining.
thanks so much. We'll see you online. I hope to see you at one of these conferences at some point.
Soon. Yes, very soon.
I'll figure it out. And we'll see you soon. Thanks so much, Azeem.
Right.
Have a good one.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.